Hey guys, this is Kathy from CYC, and today we're going to dive into the CYC Ride Control app. We're going to tell you guys what it's needed for, what you can do with it, and also which models it is compatible with. Let's get into it. So to give you guys a quick overview of the CYC Ride Control app, the CYC Ride Control app is compatible with all the X series controllers. So this includes the Photon, the X1 Pro Gen 4 and Gen 3, as well as the Stealth Gen 3. However, it is also compatible with previous generation models that does have an X6 controller. So if you guys have switched over from an ASI controller or from the very original stock controllers, and you now have an X series controller, including the X6, X6P, and X12, then you will need the CYC Ride Control app. So the app is available on iOS and also on Android, so you can find it on the App Store or on Google Play. If you have a different phone that is like a Huawei, for example, please let us know. We can send you the app file, the APK file, if you do need it. Okay, once you have downloaded the app, you will find it on your home screen. And the first thing you're going to notice is the search or select your device screen. So immediately we see the CYC logo at the top, and we also see a preview mode here. So if you just want to see what the app can do, you can download the app and enter the preview mode just to have a quick run through of what it can do. Okay, we're not going to enter the preview mode now. We are going to search for our device by hitting the search button, and I'm going to connect to the X12 X1 Pro Gen 4 bike that is sitting here next beside me. Okay, on the dashboard, immediately we're going to find some of our main functions, our dashboard number 1 and our dashboard number 2, as you can see it here if you swipe left. So on our dashboard, we have a few main key features. We have the error code function here. So if there's anything wrong with your kit, you will immediately check the error codes there. We also have the disconnect function, that little Bluetooth function that is highlighted in red. If you press that, you will disconnect it. We also have our brake sensor signal over here, which tells you if your brake sensors are enabled or not enabled. We have the race and street mode, which you can toggle in between by selecting the large icon over here as well. Okay. If you're going into higher assist levels, either 3, 5, or 9 assist levels, and switching between them, you will see that the assist level bar here will also change. Then we have a lot of different interesting functions that just tells you a lot about your riding performance, the motor performance, and your human performance as well, as well as some features about the motor system. So you have your battery level. This will be relative to the nominal battery voltage that you have set up for yourself. You have your human input power in watts, the motor power in watts, the cadence RPM, and a lot of other features as well. If you swipe to the left, then you can find your second dashboard, which gives you more features like your motor RPM, your controller and motor temperature, your throttle in voltage, your input current, and also your odo. So one important thing to note on your second dashboard here is you do want your controller and your motor temperature should relatively be similar when you're starting out with your ride. Like if your bike has been just sitting and you haven't been riding it in the last couple of hours, then it should be room temperature around approximately. If there is a big discrepancy between these two, please be sure to let us know. Another thing that you can look out for on the second dashboard is your throttle in voltage. Your baseline voltage when the throttle is in a 0 position, meaning not pressed down at all, is approximately 0.8 volts. If your throttle in voltage is showing higher than that or a lot lower, please be sure just to note and check that your throttle is working properly. Okay, there is also a final feature that we have added in one of the later versions of the app, and that is the ability to switch to landscape mode. Now, if you press this little square button over here, then you will be able to switch to the landscape mode, which can give you a full dashboard reading of all of the parameters that you can actually view. At the bottom here, you see that the dashboard icon is glown in red, or is shown in red. This is just to indicate that you are now on the dashboard page. If you switch it over and you click on settings, then you will go into the main settings page. Now immediately at the top, you will see that you have your device name, and at the bottom it will say a serial number. Now that would be the serial code that is tied to your controller. You can actually edit the name of your device. Let's say I want to make it my bike. You can save that and it will be saved to your device. Now this does not mean when someone else wants to connect to your bike that they will have the same name that you have now indicated to this. This is unique to your device only. Then you will also see the different settings pages. You have general, modes and levels, throttle, pedal assist, peripherals, battery and firmware. Now before we get into that, I just wanted to let you guys know that at the very top right hand corner, you will also be able to find the Ride Control app's user guide. So if you do go into that, you will be able to find that as well. And we try and keep this updated. But please do let us know if there's anything in the app's user guide that you guys want more detail on, or what you guys would like to see more info on. We'd be happy to edit it and update it as we go along. So just to let you guys know, we are not going to be diving into the throttle and the pedal assist settings in depth in this video. We're going to do a general overview of the rest of the functions, and then we will be covering the throttle and pedal assist settings in detail, paired with how that affects your riding in a separate video, to give you guys a full overview of exactly how much customization is possible and how in a real life scenario that would affect your riding. So our first settings page that we find here is general. Now this is just things like your temperature unit, either Celsius or Fahrenheit, speed unit, miles or kilometers, however you prefer it. And then you can also restore the settings to default on the general page. Modes and levels, what you will see varies depending on which motor system you have. For X1 Pro and Stealth, you get 2 motor type settings, which you would need a password for to be able to change it. Now this is just, for example, if you are switching your controller over to a previous generation or to a newer generation, then you will be able to change it by the motor type. So if you are doing any changes or getting a new controller and the motor type does not coincide with the model that you have, please let us know and we'd be happy to share the password with you so that you can change your motor type settings accordingly. On the Photon, it's a bit of a different story. On the Photon, you will see that you don't have a motor type setting, but you have a profile setting. Now on the Photon, you can select between like USA, Canada, Europe, or the unrestricted mode. So depending on which motor system you have, some of the settings might vary, but all of the base functionalities will stay the same. Other than the motor type settings, you also have your mode after restart. This simply just means that once you turn your system back on, do you want it to every time start in street mode or every time start in race mode, or do you want to continue where you left off? So the modes and levels page is where you can set up your 2 modes. Now the 2 modes that you can find is the street and race. Now your street mode is meant to be set up according to your region's speed limits, your road limits that are set out by your country. It varies significantly depending on where you are in the world. We do recommend setting it up that way, but you can adjust it according to your preference if you have the default firmware. Your race mode, you can set up to whatever your liking is. We have set it to approximately the maximum settings for the motors, but you can change it lower as well, and we just named it race and street because that is its intended use, but you are free to change it however you please. You can change the throttle and pedal assist, torque and power level according to the assist level distribution. So for example, if you have your display on 3 assist levels, then you can set what power and torque level you would like it to be depending on which assist level you are on. This can be set up for throttle and pedal assist independently, and then you can also have the same functions for your race mode. This also means that you can change the speed limit for race and street mode respectively. Now you'll see the street mode is by default set to 16 miles an hour or 25 kilometers an hour, and for race the speed limit is 75 miles an hour or approximately over 100 kilometers an hour. Just to explain a little bit more about the power and torque distribution that you can find in your modes and levels. Now the power level is based on the wattage. So you'll see that the maximum that you can set it to is the maximum power that the system that you have can output. For example, for Photon, this would be 1200, or if you are in unrestricted mode, 2000 watts, or if you're in Stealth, this would be higher, and then obviously for X1 Pro Gen 4, this would be 6000 watts. How the torque level distribution works is that it's in percentage. So if you have the photon system and the max torque is 110 Newton meters, then setting your mid level, for example, to 50% will then be 55 Newton meters. So I know I said in this video that we're not really going to talk about throttle or your pedal assist settings, but I do want to touch on it just on a very basic level. You note that in throttle and pedal assist, you can turn these off respectively in the throttle control or pedal assist control functions that you will find at the very top of each of these pages. There is also in the throttle settings page that there is a section for your throttle calibration. Now what this is if you are using third-party throttles, you can calibrate it so that the baseline voltage is correctly set up and that your minimum and maximum throttle voltages will coincide with whatever throttle you have purchased. Now please take this with a grain of salt. When you are purchasing a third-party throttle, it is very, very important to make sure that the pin layout matches our wiring harness, just to make sure that nothing breaks or you're not corrupting the system in some kind of way. So be sure if you want to purchase a third-party throttle that you do get the pin layout from us and then confirm that it is actually indeed compatible with the throttle that you want to use. Okay, skipping over pedal assist settings, we're moving on to the peripheral settings page. Now in the peripheral settings page, you can find settings for your speed sensor, your brake sensor, and also for your motor. For the speed sensor, you can set more than one magnet to get a more accurate speed sensor reading. You can set up to 10 magnets. However, one wheel magnet is more than enough. Some people do prefer to, and you can set it in the app here if you would really choose to. Then we have our brake sensor settings. Now, if you do have brake sensors or you have purchased the brake sensors from us or from a reseller, please note that this setting is going to be off by default. So if you are wondering why your brake sensors are not working, please be sure to turn it on in this settings section over here. If you do have brake sensors purchased from a third-party supplier, the same goes for the throttle from a third-party supplier. Please do get the pin layout from us so that you can make sure that it will actually be compatible. But in some cases, the brake sensor signal will be inverted. So you can simply switch the setting on to make sure that it matches the brake sensors that you have purchased. Lastly, you also in some of the systems like the X1 Pro and the Stealth, but not in the Photon, you do have a setting here for the motor direction. Now this is only needed in some cases and is only there for a default. Please do not touch this setting unless you are advised to do so. If you do have any issues with your motor, please do contact us and we will advise you if you need to change your motor direction or not. It is also password protected, so if you do feel that this is something you require, please do let us know. Moving on to our battery settings section. Now here you can change your battery voltage. Now depending on what battery voltage you have, either a 36 volts, 42, 48, or 52, or for Pro even up to 72 volts, you will be able to change that here. Now it's very important that you do change this because otherwise you might get a over or under voltage error. So be sure to set your battery according to its nominal voltage, save that setting, and then it is also advisable to change the minimum voltage. Now a lot of you have asked what minimum voltage should you set it to. Now we will leave a link in the description box that will give you guys some guidance on what you need to set it based on your battery's nominal voltage. And finally, we have the firmware settings section of our app. Now in this section, you will be able to see if your firmware is currently up to date or if it needs to be updated. You will also be able to see the current version with a date stamp at the bottom. Now if your firmware is not up to date, the prompts will guide you on how to upload it. When you do update your firmware, please be sure not to lose the connection. Make sure that you have a stable connection and make sure that you do not close the app or exit it entirely so that the connection can get disrupted. In some cases, you might need to reflash your firmware. For example, if something got corrupted while you were doing the firmware update, or in other cases, if there are custom firmware that you need to upload for some reason. Then you can select the Choose File function. It is also password protected. However, please let us know or let an authorized dealer know if you want to change it or if you want to upload a file. We have simply added this password function to ensure that the incorrect files aren't being uploaded. For example, someone didn't accidentally upload the Photon firmware to the X1 Pro and stuff like that. So please be sure to let us know, then we will guide you through the proper steps to upload the correct firmware accordingly. So a lot of you have also asked, is the app actually needed? And why do I need to install the app? The app is not needed for your daily rides. The app is only needed if you are coming across some kind of issue or if you would like to do setup. Now the setup will include things like setting up your battery voltage, setting up your general settings, for example, your temperature and speed units like miles an hour or kilometers an hour and things like that. Or if you want to set up, maybe play around with your pedal assist settings or your throttle or things like that. So it's needed for setup, but aside from the setup, where the app will actually come into very good use is if you have any issues. Almost in all the cases, if your kit is experiencing some trouble, your authorized reseller or a CYC rep will immediately ask you to check some things on the app, check for error codes, check for abnormal readings, or tell you specifically what readings to look out for. So in these cases, yes, it is extremely needed to have the app on hand when something goes wrong, but just for general use cases, no. A lot of the things such as switching between race and street mode or even setting up your battery voltage can be done via the display directly. So a lot of these functions are not needed for your daily ride, but we do encourage you to download the CYC Ride Control app because it will help you troubleshoot and it will also help you get familiar with the system and how much customization features are possible. Well, that's it from my side for today covering the CYC Ride Control video. Please do let us know if there's any feature or parameter that you guys want to see more of or that you guys want more info on. Also, if you have any recommendations on what you'd like us to add in the app or what features stands out for you, please let us know. Your feedback is always welcome. Otherwise, hope you guys have a good day and see you in the next one.